Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to see that you that are here are at least staying healthy for the time being. I had a ton of emails this morning from students saying that they either tested positive or they got a quarantine because they were around someone who did. You name it. I mean, it seemed like something happened over the weekend. I don't know if there was some kind of spike or whatnot. I'm glad that you guys are here. Keep taking care of your own health, and I guess we can keep slowly progressing through this class. So we're going to be down, I think, 3 students today. And let me start by returning some homework. And I believe if you pay attention to Canvas, I believe that you probably already know what you got for a grade on this assignment. But now you can actually see it and see what you got, if you got anything wrong. So. Okay, so the main thing about part writing that 2-7 chord, remember, some people did not remember to do that, and that is we've got to find the one tendency tone in the 2-7. That is the chord's 7th. You've got to take it down by step. Take it down by step as it goes to the next harmony. Sometimes, as we saw, the 7th of the 2-7 chord can remain static or just a brief chord, but eventually it does go down by step. It can't go down by a leap, unfortunately. It can't go up. It's got to eventually go down by a step. That's the main thing for part writing any section. How you can save yourself losing points. Okay, so today you have something in the workbook for me, and it deals with more 7th chords. This time, as we said last class, it deals with 7th chords whose root is scale degree 7. So 7s are going wild here today, as they do sometimes in music theory. And if you haven't already, could you open up to page 123 in your workbook? Remember, it was just selected exercises that I had to complete. You didn't have to complete the entire page. Well, let's do it this way. I have in my notes that I will not select this assignment. We'll just go over the answers. And there's no in-class quiz today. So, well, that said, the next assignment will be cool. Anyway, so let's take a look at the problems that you were assigned to do on page 123 and see if you're spelling all these 7 chords correctly. Get these TVs on them. Can you see something? In the first section, they ask you to notate the chords using accidentals, not key signatures. So you will have to use accidentals probably in most every chord here because they do not want you to fill in the key signature for the key chords. Okay, number 2 and number 4. Again, your chord can be spelled in a different octave than mine, but it should have the same lowest pitch as mine, and it should have the same accidentals as mine. So 5, 4, 3, F sharp major is going to be a root of C sharp, then E sharp, G sharp, and B. With G sharp on the bottom. 4. Remember the root of, these are leading tone seventh chords, the root of these 7 sevenths is always a minor second below high do, any do for that matter. So in number 4, if do is B flat, the root of the chord has to be A. That's a minor second below. And then you can spell a fully diminished seventh chord on A, you should get A, C, E flat, G flat. Put it in first inversion C in the business. I won't do that for all of these because that might take forever right now. Just kind of recap what we did last class. 8, 9, 11, 13. So let's take a look at number 8. That one you did not need any accidentals for apparently. B, D, F, A. F on the bottom. Makes it half diminished 7. Number 9 and 11. Guess you can see them both in the same window. Number 9, C sharp, E, G, B flat. Third inversion, B flat is the lowest tone. And number 11, half diminished, looks like you need D, D, F, A. F on the bottom. 13 and 14. Any questions, comments, or concerns about spelling these chords in section 8? You might think, well, this is just busy work, but really, you've got to be able to spell these 7 chords accurately before you can even put them on a grand staff and part rate them before voices. You've really got to know how to spell them. I don't know if I mentioned this before in this class or a previous class, but I've read books how, sometimes some of the facts and theory you need to know as quickly and as readily as you know your own name. It just really helps. It really helps to be able to do it. Okay, let's take a look at section B. We have 2, 4, 5, and 6. Number 2, I hope you got a 2, 4, 2 chord in the key of D major. Remember the 2, 7 in major keys is a minor 7th chord. You don't need any diminished symbols or anything like that. It's just a plain minor on the 7th chord. Number 4, 5, 6, 5 in the key of B minor. Number 5, a 2, 4, 3. And number 6 is a 2, 7. Well, how come they don't have any 7, 7 chords down there? I guess it's just 5 7s and 2 7s. That's the second one. Any questions about any of these? You can probably bet your bottom dollar. Does anyone know where that comes from? From him. Good. But you can probably bet your bottom dollar that there will be some spelling chords of 2 7s and 7 7s and stuff on the next test when we probably not a lot, but there might be. Okay, so that takes care of that. Now, today I would like to finish talking to you about the 7 7 chords. Specifically, not focusing so much on how to spell them, since we talked about that last class, but how to part write them. That's going to be the main focus today. And then after today, starting on Wednesday, then we can start a completely new topic. That is a little bit of knowledge about transposition, transposing instruments, which is always fun and interesting to say the least. Okay, so I have on the board here one of the charts that we ended up with at the end of last class. And this is the complete or the fullest resolution chart that you will get basically in any theory semester for that matter. And you will use this knowledge, you can use this knowledge in Theory 3. You can use the knowledge from this chart in Theory 4. I still refer to this chart to my 3 and 4 students. I said, remember years ago when we did that chart? And they're like, oh yeah. This chart is, it really would benefit you to have this chart memorized. If you can memorize the one, how many columns or rows are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. Yeah, to have this chart memorized is really, really good. We had said last class about how the 5/7 and the 7/7 have 3 tones in common. They share 3 pitches. There's only 1 note difference between them. So certain inversions of 5/7 will resolve to the same chord that different inversions of 7/7 will resolve to. And we put it all on a chart here, knowing that the 7 root position, 7/7 chord goes to root position 1. First inversion 7/7, 1 or 1/6. Second inversion 7/7 has to go to 1/6. And then this was a new added row to the chart. Third inversion 7/7 goes to 1/6/4 or 5/7. Okay. All right. Now, excuse me. In order to know how to part write 7/7 chords in their various bass positions, it goes back to we need to find out or think about how many tendency tones there are the 7/7 chord. Well, just like the 5/7 chord in its various bass positions, the 7/7 chord has 2 tendency tones together. 2 tones that have an inclination to go only one direction. And the quicker and the more adept you get at spotting the 2 tendency tones right from the get-go, when you look at a 7/7 chord in 4-voice texture, the easier it will be to part write these chords correctly. So how many tendency tones does a 5/7 chord have? 2. And what are those 2 tendency tones? Can you describe them to me? How are they different? Okay, T of the scalar key, and then the 7th of the chord. How many tendency tones did a 2/7 chord have? 1. And which one was it? The 7th of the chord. Now, with 7/7 chords, we're back to 2 tendency tones again. And they're the same tendency tones that the 5/7 chord has. T of the key, which goes up, likes to go up by half step, and the 7th of the chord, which goes down by step. Opposite directions. When you part write a 7/7, half diminished or fully diminished, it doesn't matter. The 7th of the chord will always go down by step, and T of the key, in whatever voice it is, it never has to be frustrated. Isn't that nice? So T of the key, in whatever voice it is, it's always going to be going up. Always going to be going up. There's one exception, but we'll see that later. It's not really important right now. So, I've got an example here to part write. I've got a 7 half diminished 7 in B flat major in 4 voices. And we talked last class about how 7/7s like to go to 1, right? In fact, should it go to a root position 1? The answer is yes. A root position 7/7 should go to root position 1. And by the way, the chart is true for major and minor or minor keys. It's almost like, maybe it's not like it, but you remember those books years ago, like Where's Waldo? Did you ever have a hard time finding it? Well, here it's like you got 4 notes. Which one or 2 of these notes are tendency tones? It's like you gotta find them first. It's like you gotta be a little Sherlock Holmes or detective and take your magnifying glass and smooth it out. Who can tell me which one of these pitches is a tendency? Okay? The G is a tendency tone. Which one is it?
It's the 7th of the chord.
Okay, so how is it supposed to move?
Down a step.
Down by step, that's right. Well, let's do it. Where's the other tendency tone?
The C.
Careful. for T of the key, scale degree 7. C is scale degree 2 in B flat.
Sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
The
The A is the scale degree 7, right? So this is the other tendency tone. And as T of the key or scale degree 7, it likes to go up by half step. Okay? So here we go. We took care of the two tendency tones. The one goes up, the one goes down. Now we're 50% of the way done. Just have to look at what we're trying to spell. We're trying to spell a B flat D F chord. And we know that we should double the bass in a repositioned chord. Yes?
So you're gonna take the alto down to a B and the soprano up to an F.
The first part I would be okay with. I don't know about the second part. Do I want another F in my
Oh
chord?
wait, no, sorry. You're gonna take it down to a B.
It comes with D, yeah. So let's do it like this. And this is correctly done. I can't over stress. I can't overstress the importance of finding the two tendency tones, being aware of where they are, and knowing where they're supposed to go as you go to the next chord. You take care of that first, the others should fall into place a lot easier. And you have much less chance of creating errors if you take care of the tendency tones first also. Because you have less choices, less options for the remaining notes. Okay? Now, I wish, with all my heart and strength, I wish that part writing 7/7 chords was this easy, and that was all there was to it. But there can be some problems with part writing 7/7 chords. And in fact, if you're not paying attention very carefully, sometimes you can actually write parallel fifths when you don't want to. And sometimes you can write unequal fifths when you don't want to. And there's a lot of stuff that can happen if you don't pay super close attention with resolving or part writing a 7 diminished 7 chord to a 1. So for instance, let's say I had this 7/7 chord revoiced. Let's say I did it like this. The bottom notes are still going to be the same. Let's say I have a C here, and I have, what are the other notes I need here? A, C, G. Let's try a G here. Let's try a B here. C. Okay. Now, following the tendency tone guidelines, as I should. This is still T of the key, and I'm taking it up as I should. Where's the chord 7th now? What voice has it? The alto, that's right. So take it down by step. Now to finish part writing this chord, taking stock of what I have and what I still need, I probably want to do something like this. Right? B flat, double, then a D and an F. But by doing this, I have now inadvertently created a riveting part writing error. Does anyone spot or see the error that I wrote? I could use a different color marker for this. Red would be the best, but I don't know what the red markers work. What is this right here? Between the tenor and the alto. Isn't that called parallel fifths? These buggers, they're really skimmers. They're just skimming away with So, well, what am I supposed to do to fix these parallel fifths? Because you can't have parallel fifths in any part writing. What am I supposed to do to fix these? I mean, did you just tell me that the G, as the chord 7th, doesn't it have to go down this way? So I can't take the G to another note. Well, it turns out there are two ways that you can fix or correct these parallel fifths if you get them. One of the ways is what I had before. Before, did you know that I have the G? By the way, the parallel fifths are between the C and the G here, and then the B flat and the F. Before, I had the G below the C in the chord. What happens when you take a perfect fifth and you invert it? What interval do you get? A perfect fourth, right? So, if you end up writing parallel fifths, as you part write a 7-7 to its resolution chord, and the chord that's the first chord, if it's not given to you or set in indelible ink or stone, then maybe you can switch those voices around, like I had originally. Now do you see how I have parallel fourths between the tenor and the alto? Parallel fourths are always allowed. They're always legal. So one fix for bad parallel fifths is, if this chord isn't given to you, if it's not etched in stone, and you have the ability to revoice it, go ahead and turn the notes that form perfect fifths, turn them upside down or switch their position, and then you'll end up having parallel fourths, which is certainly allowed. I think that's one fix. Make sense? Now, what happens though if the 7-7 chord is given to you in indelible ink, it's etched in stone, there's no way you can change the voicing of the first chord? Does that mean you just have to write parallel fifths and you have to end up getting -3 or whatever on your homework? There's no way around it? No. If you cannot switch the voicing of the given chord, the only other way to avoid writing those parallel fifths, which we have to do at all costs, is to double something else in the one chord. And in order to avoid parallel fifths, the guideline is you are welcome to double the third of this B flat D F chord rather than the root. So for instance, if I took this down to double the root as I normally would, I would end up with those parallel fifths. But if I double another pitch in the chord such as that, now I don't have the parallel fifths between the tenor and the alto. Yes, I've got another pitch, something not the root, doubled, but that is okay to do if it's avoiding some very tragic, very gross, or serious part writing error. Yes?
How does
Take a listen to it. I have it on my notes here. A, C. You know what? I'm just going to have to bring the bass up. A, C, G, E flat. Let's see. Make sure I get the right key. A, C, G. Okay, so before we had it going to this. In this case, we have parallel fifths between the inner voices. But if I do it this way, now I have this in the inner voices. Okay? And I think to our 21st century ears, it's not going to really sound all that bad. As long as you have the right notes in the one chord, it's going to be okay. Okay, so the moral, or one of the big points and lessons I want you to take away from this class is, when you part write a 7-7 to a 1 chord, you've got to, you're responsible, you've got to check to make sure you didn't write a parallel fifths. If you did, only one way to fix them.
Flip
Okay, flip them. Flip the voices that are involved in the parallel fifths and write parallel fourths instead. What's the other way to fix them if you can't flip them? Okay, double the third of the 1 chord. That's a huge, huge part of, I mean, if you could leave class today knowing those things, that's a huge part of being able to do your homework correctly. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you a handout, and the handout is going to show you all the different bass positions of the 7-7 chord and what it resolves to, and whether or not you get parallel fifths, that kind of thing. But I'm just going to give you a handout so I don't have to put all of them on the board. I've done the dirty work, the rough work for you. Mhm. Okay. Let's look at the top system. Sorry, well, actually, these are all in the key of C major rather than B flat. So just so you know, a 7/7 chord in C major is B, D, F, A. B, D, F, A. Okay? So, in the first measure, B is the leading tone. You see in the bass how it has to go up. And the seventh of the chord is the A. It happens to be in the soprano. You see how that has to go down by step. But in the process, I ended up writing parallel fifths between, it happens in this example, between the alto and the soprano. So, what are the two ways to fix it? You see how I have in this middle measure, I have the A is below the D. So now when they move in the same direction as the motion, we do a force. And the next measure D. The D is still below the A, but I can't write parallel fifths going to the next chord. So I ended up doubling the third of my C, G chord. And that's why it's the parallel fifth. This is just what we talked about, just in a different key. Does this make sense? Does anyone have any questions about this? Okay. Now, take a look at the next measure too. You see how 7 half diminished 6/5, I tried to take it to a root position 1? What did I end up writing between the bass and tenor? Parallel fifths, right? Is there a way? Is there a way for me to flip the two notes that form a fifth in the first chord if I'm stuck with this inversion 7/6/5? There's no way for me to flip the notes without changing the inversion of the chord. And I'm not going to take this A. I'm not going to make it leap all the way down to E and try to double the third of the C, G chord that way. So, what happens then? This looks like some parallel fifths that are not fixable. So what we do is we throw this progression out. We discard it. We're never going to write a 7/7 chord in first inversion to a root position 1. 7 diminished 6/5 cannot go, should not go to root position 1 because of the fifths that you can't fix. And so what we're going to end up doing is that 7/7 in first inversion is going to have to go to 1 in first inversion to avoid those parallel fifths. Yes?
And that's not always the case though, right? Because on our chart it says you can do 1/6.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And I was just going to get to that. I'm going to make a really important change or amendation to the chart. And that is this. 5/4/3 can go to 1/1/6. But 7/6/5 must go to 1/6. So in your chart, I'm making a final change, and this is going to be a permanent change. The 7/6/5, I want you to draw here. It can go above or it can go down below, it doesn't matter. But the 7/6/5 has to go to 1/6, not reposition 1. Seven half diminished 4/3. That particular inversion goes to 1/6. You see, in the first time I tried it on your handout, I got parallel fifths. That's all right. I can revoice. I can flip the fifths upside down to make them fourths, parallel fourths, and it doesn't change the inversion of either chord. So that one I can fix. Parallel force is always better than right parallel force. And then is there one more over here? 7 diminished 4-2. You see how on the chart it goes to 164 or 57? And by the way, this is a pretty smooth progression of part rate because how many tones, for instance, are in the 5-7 that are shared with the 7-4-2? In fact, take a look at the 7 diminished 4-2 in the rightmost measure. Remember I said B is the leading tone of the key? Did my B, did it actually go up by a step into the next chord? No. Well, that's because the 5-7 doesn't have low, it contains T. So when 7-4-2 goes to 5-7, this is one instance where T of the key in the 7 chord does not immediately go up to do. It's going to stay the same pitch, and then when 5-7 goes to 1, then it will go up. But the 7th of the chord, which is in the bass, that A, that still goes down by step. And that's why when you have 7-4-2, that inversion, you see how 164 and 5-7 are really the only good options? Because they both have a note in the bass that is a step lower than the 7th. I realize that this stuff is not, this is dry as dust, I understand that. But this is the one class where we have to get into the nitty-gritty and work out all the kinks and the details to understand that, and then we can just apply that from now on and incorporate these chords. Does anyone have any questions about any of the chords in the first row of your handout, top row? Okay? The only difference in the middle row, when you're in a minor key and you have the fully diminished 7-7 chords, not the half diminished, what happens is that the parallel perfect fifths that we had in the major keys, they become unequal fifths. What's an unequal fifth? What did we talk about? An unequal fifth in part rating is when two voices form a perfect fifth, and those same two voices then move to a diminished fifth. Or the reverse. Say you have two voices that form a diminished fifth, and when they move in parallel or semi-parallel motion, then they wind up forming a perfect fifth. That's what unequal fifths are called. And unequal fifths are actually permitted in part writing unless the bass voice is involved. If the bass voice is at all involved in creating unequal fifths with another voice as you go from one chord to the next, you're not permitted to write that. And I can even show you that there's a real nitpicky rule. It's in your book on page, it's 70 something. I can show you that, but just in order to save time, I'm just going to bypass it. Okay. So those unequal fifths in that first measure, they're between the tenor and the soprano. See, D to A flat is a diminished fifth. C to G is a perfect fifth. Are those unequal fifths okay? The answer is yes, right? Because the bass voice isn't involved. If you don't like unequal fifths, you can change them around the same way we fix parallel fifths. You can revoice the fifths and turn them into fourths by flipping them upside down. Or you can double the third of the one chord. That's fine. Going to C7 diminished 6-5, going to root position 1. Do you see how there's unequal fifths involving the bass that can't be fixed without changing the inversion of the first chord? That's why we discard and throw that progression out. 7 diminished 6-5, even in minor keys, does not go to root position 1, it goes to, what's it? Just inversion. And there's a better example of it right there. And then 7 diminished 4-3 goes to 1-6, and 7 diminished 4-2 goes to 1-6, 1-6-4, or 5-7. So I just wanted you to have this handout, just so that you could see some examples of all the different inversions of 7-7 and what you can take that chord to and how you can fix your parallel fifths if you have them. Because I don't think the book gives you as extensive, this many number of examples. In fact, I think the book just avoids writing the 7 diminished 4 part, writing the 7 diminished 4 2 altogether. Because the book says, oh, that chord's right. Well, I'll move so when you do your homework, you've at least got examples in the key of C. Now, I'm probably not going to ask you to part write these chords in the key of C on the homework, but you can do the transfer. You can do the transfer. And before we leave this handout, we've got some problems down below here that we can work out together. So go to the lower left of your handout, where you've got a 7 half diminished 7 in the key of D major. First of all, I'll see if I can do this on the board. First of all, I'm going to want you to tell me what chord does it go to in what bass position. And second of all, I want you to help me part write it so that we follow we resolve the tendency tones, but at the same time do not have any parallel fifths in the process. So, if you want to start doing your part writing on your sheet, you're welcome to. I got to put up a staff here with the other key signatures. All right. You tell me what Roman numeral goes in blank here. This is not a trick question. Root position 1, right? Is it lowercase or capital? Capital 1, we're in a major key. Okay? So I know it has to go to that. Okay, here's the Where's Walden. Find the two tendency tones. Can you name one of them?
The C and the bass.
Okay, the C sharp, and how that is T as a key, so where does it have to go? Up, that's right. Good, because that's the bass, the note I want in the bass for reposition 1. All right, so that's one of them. Where's the other tendency tone?
The D and the bass. That D and B, sorry.
Okay, the B, and what voice is it in?
And tenor.
The tenor, right? The B and the tenor. It's the chords, the seventh, right? C, E, G, B. That's the seventh of the chord. So that has to move down.
Okay.
Good. Down by step. I need another D, preferably, and I need an F sharp. Let's go ahead and do that. Fill them in where they would like you'd likely expect them. And now let's go back and look. Did I write any parallel fifths? Well, if I did, it would be between among the top three voices, because they're the only ones moving in parallel motion. The bass is going in contrary. I didn't write any parallel fifths. And you know, before I even part wrote this to this, do you know how I knew I wasn't going to get any parallel fifths? Because I didn't find any interval of a fifth between any pair of notes in a given chord. I'd have to have started with a perfect fifth or some kind of fifth. But G to E is a sixth, and B to G is a sixth, and B to E is a fourth, and I just didn't have any fifths. So I'm not going to get any parallel fifths when I part write it. Make sense? Okay. Good, let's go to the next one. F major, 7 half diminished 4/2. Signature. have a choice. 7 to the diminished 4/2 can either go to 164 or 5/7. Which one would you like to take it to? 164? Let's do it. Remember, I'm in a major key, so it's capital 1. Now, spot, I find my tendency terms. So I think I got them. We've got one of them.
The E and the alpha.
That's right. And that's the leading tone of the key, so which way is that supposed to go? Okay, very good. Goes to F. The other one is
The D,
that has to go how?
that's the one.
Down by step, because it's the 7th of the chord. You bet. What are we supposed to double in all second inversion triads? No exceptions? Just to double the bass. So I need another C. Where should I get my other C? In the soprano or the tenor? Yeah. I'm going to get it in the tenor. And then what note am I missing in my FAC chord? An A. I can get it right here. Look at that. Beautiful. Incidentally, let me just show you quickly. If I took this to 5/7 instead, all these 3 notes would stay the same, they'd stay static. And you might say, well then how come you can't, don't you have to resolve this T of the key? Don't you have to take care of it? Well, not when it goes to 5/7. It's just going to remain static for one more chord. And then when this goes to 1, then it's going to go forward to go. But this is the only case. Because remember, the T of the key is never going to go down. So it's just the one word case. Okay. Time for another one. Why is the 7/7 chord in this one fully diminished and not half? Good, no, because it's in a minor key. You bet. I couldn't have said it better myself. Okay, so we're in G minor. And it's 7/6/5. And it's voice spelled as A, F sharp. You see how T is raised with an accidental in a minor key? That always has to happen as well. Okay. Now, based on our amended chart, where does the 7/6/5 have to go?
1/6.
Okay, thank you. 1/6. All right. Let's find the 2 tenants out.
The E,
The E flat. Yep. Which way is it going to go?
that needs to go F.
Down, because it took 7th of the chord. Good. The other tendency tone is the F sharp, because it's scale degree 7, and then even though it's in an inner voice, we never have to frustrate it, not with these chords, so that's going to go up to G. What does the bass have to be on in order to get a 1/6 in G minor?
E,
A B flat? Don't take it down to the G, because that'll be the wrong inversion. And finally, I would accept, see, now here, this is where I would say, well, we're taught not to double the third, or the bass note of the 1/6. So I would probably take the soprano up to the D rather than down to another B flat. In the process, have I written something terrible? F sharp to C, G to D, tenor and soprano, is that wrong? No, it's not wrong. Technically, why not? They're unequal fifths. F sharp to C is a diminished fifth. G to D is a perfect fifth. The bass is not involved. So that one, I'm clear. If this was, no, let's not even go there. Let's not even go there. We have time for the last one. minor is the key. Seven full diminished 4/3. G sharp, F sharp, A, C in second inverted. Okay, according to the chart, where should I take it to? Good, 1/6. Minor 1/6. Let's find the two tendencies. This thing.
The C,
Okay, the C moves how?
it moves to go down.
Good, goes down by step because it's the seventh of the chord, G, F, A, C. And the other one is the D sharp. Yep. And how is that supposed to go? Yep, I know it's in an inner voice, but it does not need to be frustrated. 4/1/6, which tone are you in the bass? G. Right, we're spelling the E, G, B chord, first inversion. And what am I not supposed to double in 1/6s if I can help it? The bass. So instead of taking this F sharp up to G, I'm going to do what with it? Because I already have a G. That's right. Chords of this key give me the EGs. I'm going to bring my music. A, C, D sharp, F sharp. Taking it to 1/6. All right, you have successfully survived a very detailed class. But now that we're getting past this, now you should know how to part rate these. And we shouldn't have to go through this stuff. So what I'm going to leave you with as we're getting ready to go here is the handout for next class. It's just one side, and this one I am going to collect. At the top, you're going to be spelling some more 7/7 chords. Then this one, you fill out the chart. Complete the chart, that's right here. And this one has 4 part rating numbers.
Can I do an extra one for those?
Yes. Will you see them?
Yes.
Okay. You bet. Okay, so I'll give you. And this is for Wednesday. All right, have a good rest of your afternoon. I hope it's actually getting to be 40 out there. They told me it would be. Yeah, I haven't been outside since this morning either.
I didn't have to worry about it.
My watch says 43, so.
That's cool.